Please do try to calm yourselves, because today I'm making Wonderworld's first coaster, both for all of you and in the park's lore. This would have been quite the attraction back in the day when it opened in the 70s. Not quite as white knuckle as an attraction that was built only a few years later, but you'll see that later in the series. But still, a great little coaster. Anyway, before that, this is the episode where we build the park's main street. This will go along the centre of the park, providing restaurants, cafes, shops and a place to watch the world go by. My main inspiration for this is Towers Street at Alton Towers here in the UK, where a few shops and cafes flank the main route into the park. Add some foliage and seating and you've got yourself a decent park entrance experience. I started off by adding these small covered seating areas in between the planters we built in the last episode. This is the first restaurant you'll come to in the park, called The Barn. It's going to be a larger family style restaurant modelled after, well, a barn. This episode is going to contain beams, posts and pillars. How exciting! It's always important to try and make your buildings as visually interesting as possible. Like with this building here, I've got brick on the first half of the wall and wood cladding covering the other. I then created these windows and copied them across to the other bays. Then I added some of the usual picnic tables in case the guests wanted to sit outside if it's sunny. I then created the most adorable little fence out of these planks to house a planter. After this, I started on the building next to the gift shop, which will be our locker building, where you can rent lockers throughout the day at the park. I also want to create lockers around every attraction in the park as well, so you can move these around free of charge. I decided to add these cash machines to the end of the building so that it looked like the guests were actually interacting with the locker machines. Then I covered these with some lovely TMTK lockers. Another quick thing you can do to add realism to your buildings is to add air vents. Here I am once again making each of the buildings just that little bit different. For this building in particular, just like the building next to it, I created a little porch out of, guess what, more beams. On to probably one of my favourite buildings in a theme park now, the ice cream shop. I created the entrance for this using art pieces curved into an arch. Here we are, just adding, you guessed it, more beams to frame a seating area. On to the next building now, which is a coffee shop, to help you power through those long theme park days. There really are beams everywhere you look in this park. I hope you're not beamophobic. Onto the park's pizza shop now, where there's beams and pillars and beams and pillars. Can you believe it? I'm actually giving you a break from all those beams and pillars with some nice trims. Anyway, back to it. Just doing some final touch-ups to the main street here, adding in trees that line either side of it, and then some backstage details. Then after this I decided to copy over the smaller seating areas we made earlier to create two larger seating areas at the end of the street. One of which, the one I'm building now, will have a great view, you'll see in a minute. Where is the coaster, I hear you shout at your tiny screens? Well, you can reassuringly chill the f*** out, because here it is, the infamous unnamed coaster. Keeping with tradition, comment a name for this coaster down below, and yours could be chosen. This coaster, like many other kids' coasters built in the 70s and 80s, will be a Zera Tivoli model. This coaster will actually be one of their rarer models, which doesn't actually use a standard layout and is fully custom. This means that it will be a bit longer and more exciting than their already existing models, because the park will have wanted something a little bit more exciting for their first coaster, with this height and layout being ideal for children and smaller thrill seekers. Just remember that when you're building your own park, having a range of coasters to supplement loads of different audiences is always a good thing. It makes your park more appealing for a broader range of people and can distribute the guests better. This will be the only coaster in the park that I had no real plan for. Normally with the coasters, and like most of the major coasters in this park, I sketch out plans before I start them, whereas with this one, I just made it up as I went along. Now here is a nice compilation of me making this coaster buttery smooth. As you'll be able to see in the smoothing tutorial I made a while ago, smoothing coasters isn't all just about spamming the smooth button. Sometimes you might need to go back and reprofile areas, completely retract them, or even redesign them if something just doesn't work. With the terrain paint tool, I'm going around and colouring in the grass where it would have had less access to sun because of the track. Now I don't need to go around telling you how frustrating the pathing tools are in this game, so once I'd completed this section, I just covered it up. When you've got your queue all on one level, it's much easier to do this rather than messing around trying to make the in-game pathing actually look good. After this I started to add the coaster's transfer track area and covered that and the bottom of the station in concrete. Another realism detail here, just showing how the maintenance team would actually get from the coaster platform to the maintenance area. It's time for even more beams, and this time we're making a modern fence. The idea with this is that the older fence would have been replaced by a much taller and modern one as safety standards have changed over time. To complement the terrain paint used earlier, I go in and add foliage to the ride area. and once again covering up that horrible in-game pathwork. Now we move on to the station building with even more beams and pillars. Don't say I don't treat you all. Here I'm just creating a really intricate roof structure out of these beams. For those beam enjoyers? Once I'd copied and pasted a few of these modules, I connected them with, guess what, even more beams. I then added these walls to hide the horrible in-game station fences. I did originally think I'd gone a bit overboard with the foliage in this area, but since this coaster's been around since the late 70s, then the area would have probably become quite overgrown. Here I am adding the station roof, again purposely making it look a little bit older to show its age. Along with the in-game paths not looking great, the in-game path barriers don't look great either, so I made my own custom versions of them. And with that, this episode's finished. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all the support recently. Just remember, if you always want to support the channel even more, there's the join option, which I'll link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, hold on, just one thing before I go. A little while ago, I teased this image of the park's entrance on my Discord. And then one of my amazing supporters, with the longest YouTube name ever, so I'm just going to call Raw Guy Kai, reached out to me and offered to design me a new park logo. So I sent him this sketch of the sort of design I was thinking of, and after I think what was even less than a day, he got back to me with this. You can get a better view here from around the back of the park entrance where the light is actually on it, but it just looks amazing, I love it. And what's even more incredible, that it's actually made completely out of art pieces. Thank you again so much for making this. I'll see you all next week in episode 4, where we build the park's first thrill coaster. See you then.